G'day everyone, welcome back to another edition of Guvs Hero Review videos. We are continuing in our Zombies series today, looking at the 5-star legendary blue hero, Shocker, the Thundering Zombie. Shocker is available, as we saw briefly there, from the ZombieOutbreak portal, which rolls around once every 12 weeks. It is on a monthly event time slot, but it alternates with two other events, the Mercenary and Battle of the Bands event, so we only see it once every 3 months. The zombie family itself, or this portal, has a little bit of a convoluted and complicated past. Originally, there were only 4 heroes as part of this family, and they were only summonable using these badges that were called these zombie badges, which were rewarded during a spec op. It's still in the game, actually, that spec op. It's the one with 20 zombies in a single wave, and they just come in with extras. Anyway, in May 2021, during version 33, this whole system was overhauled and those zombie badges were removed from the game, and instead the discrete 30-stage event that we see in the game called ZombieOutbreak was added. During this stage, there was a bunch of heroes. 14 new heroes were added to the original 4 heroes, and then the portal itself was expanded again in September 2022 and March 2023. So Shocker himself, he was specifically added during the version 33 update in May 2021. The portal as it stands today, we can see there the odds. We only have a 1.2% chance to gain any of the event heroes or legendary event heroes. There's no featured odds, there's no unfeatured odds, which means that the odds are flat at 1.2%, like we see here, as compared to the overall 1.6 that we see on some of the other portals. So there is, on average, a lower probability of getting a zombie event hero compared to some of the other portals. This is further exacerbated when you start looking into the specific odds. So if we were to do 100 summons in this portal, over those 100 summons, you would have a 70.1% probability of getting any of the event legendary heroes. But if you're going for a specific zombie legendary hero, there's only a 10.3% probability. So it means 1 in 10 people will get it, or 9 in 10 people will not get that specific hero when they do 100 summons in this portal. If we flip over to my roster real quick, we can take a look at his artwork. So I do actually like Shocker's artwork. I think it's a cool concept. He's got the hammer and shield sort of thing, with one of the few heroes that's not part of the Season 1 or Season 2 storyline that has an animated picture. So we can see Shocker's there with his little up and downy sort of thing. As I said, I like his artwork. I think it's kind of cool. I'm pretty sure the animation is a result of him being like his sprite also acting on the map as a boss. But anyway, that's what his artwork is, so feel free to pause it if you wish. Otherwise, I'm going to head back to the portal and hopefully track down Shocker again so we can have a look at the rest of his card. So he is a member, as all the other heroes here, of the zombie family, which means he's granted an inherent 50% reduction to any turn-based status effects or damage that he would normally have taken. There's also a plus 3, 6, 9, or 12% attack bonus when you have 2, 3, 4, or 5 unique members of the zombie family in a battle. So the reduction in turn-based damage, that is inherent, doesn't need any additional heroes to be active. He just gets it by default. However, that attack bonus, it does have to be unique heroes. It has to be multiple unique heroes. So it can't be 2 copies of Shocker. It's got to be 2 different heroes, like combining Shocker with Nox or even with Tamika as 2 different examples. In terms of his personal base stats, Shocker has 733 attack, 652 defense, and 1,365 HP. So the skewing here, it is going from that defense stat towards the attack stat. It is relatively substantial. It's probably about 30-40 points is what the skew is. So yeah, slightly weighted in that attacking orientation. The other thing to point out is that his power, it is high compared to the OG zombies, like Billy Bob for the example, but it is also low compared to some of the more modern heroes that have been added. So Shocker is 684, Topaz comes in with 742 as the example. So the power is just a metric of their overall stats. So lower power means lower total base stats to be available. His charge speed is set to 50, which is bang on the mark for 10 tiles to charge. So 49 is 11 tiles, 50 is 10 tiles to charge. So it does need 5 ghosted tiles as the alternative. The speed break point is at 58, so you need to get +8 speed improvement, which is possible using either of the blue speed guns in the game. So both the Regalizer Magnum and the Ice Breath Saw give you a +9 speed improvement. Because 9 is greater than 8, the class node is not really relevant unless you're running with the speed gun, which isn't maxed out. In that case, if you've got a +6 or a +7, the speed node does get you across the line. But if you're just using a +9 gun, you don't need the speed node at all. So yeah. In terms of his class itself, he is a member of the Sentry class, which grants him a chance to armor up and gain 5% of his health as armor after receiving any damage. I don't mind this perk. The damage can come from any source, essentially. It can come from minions, tiles, skills, DOT, fiends, you name it. If it's doing damage, it can proc the Sentry class. The downside is twofold. So number one, it's obviously only once per turn, so it doesn't matter if you take 15 instances of damage, you can only armor up once during that turn. The other downside is when you compare it to the similar effect, which is the medic talent. The medic talent does a healing spray to all allies, whereas the Sentry talent is only to the hero himself. So little bit of a downer on that front. I'd prefer if the armor up was to all allies as well, but you know, whatever. In terms of an emblem path, you could arguably go either route. You could go for more attack to increase his damage output. Very viable and very justifiable option. The other option is that I would probably do if I was to emblem Shocker is I'd go the defense HP route to try and increase his survival. And that's mostly to take advantage of the Shield of Wrath skill. So if we were to have a look at that on his card, that's not the one I wanted this one. So if we take a look at that attack path, first off, the attack path would look something like this. So we are going to pick up the nodes with attack on them. Where there's a choice between attack and defense nodes, I personally tend to go the defense. So between defense and HP, I personally go defense. That's just my personal preference. But either route is viable. I would obviously stop at +18 because the 19 node is the speed node and we don't really need the speed node unless we're running with a lower gun. So that attack path would look like this. We are going left to pick up both defense and HP because that healing node is borderline useless, and then we're picking up the remaining attack nodes. You could stop at +16 there, which is the final attack node, but otherwise 18 is also an acceptable stopping point. So that's the attack path. If we were to go the defense path instead, or defense HP, it would look actually quite similar. There's only a couple nodes which are reversed, which are at those two we've just seen there. Otherwise, it looks much the same. So that would be the defense and HP route. Again, stopping at +18 because the 19th node is the speed node, and the 20th node is a lot of emblems for marginal defense improvements. So I wouldn't go to 20. Yeah, just too many emblems for only a small defense improvement. So heading back to the portal, and we can take a look at his special skill. So his special skill is titled Wrath of the Zombie, and at level 10 skill and 50 charge speed, it will do one of two things. So it will alternate between these two effects. So alternatively, it will cast either the Hammer of Wrath, which deals 365% damage to the target, or it will cast the Shield of Wrath, which deals 205% damage to the target and nearby allies, and applies a -29% defense debuff to the target and nearby enemies for 3 turns. So it is a little bit of an interesting skill, because there are 2 different casts in there, and it will just alternate between the 2. So the first time you charge a skill, it'll do the hammer. Second time, it'll do the shield. Then it'll hammer, then shield, then hammer, then shield, and so on and so forth. So we'll have a look at both of those casts. We'll start with the Hammer of Wrath because it is the first one on his skill. So with both of them, I will compare or have a look at the damage output and make some comparisons there. But I don't tend to compare on the basis of damage because there's a lot of variability in the damage calculation and a lot of randomness. So instead, I compare heroes based on their attack power, which is analogous to their final damage output anyway. So attack power is just their attack stat, 733, multiplied by the percentage in their skill. So if we have a look at that hammer cast to start with, we are dealing 365% damage to the target, which comes out with an attack power we see of 2,676, or speed normalized down to 268 attack power per tile. which we can see it lands him number 18 of the 19 blue snipers in the game. So blue is very sniper heavy. There's a lot of blue snipers compared to some of the other elements. And there's also a number of options where they can gain additional damage. So coming in 8th out of 19, it's in the middle range. It's not an upper range hero by any means, but it's also not a low range hero. It is a step or two behind some of the best ones. You know, you've got Lillian variant there at 457 attack power per tile, followed by Jolt at 440, Iona 321, 0.287, who can bolster up to 512. So there are some better options. There's obviously worse options. You know, you've got Hex, who's 257. She's only just been one of the recent heroes of the month. Finley, 223. Chul down at 160 and Variant Face Off at 133. So there are a lot of options in blue, and Shocker coming in at number 8 in the middle of the pack is not too bad. It is a little bit lackluster when you look at the fact that the Hammer of Wrath actually has no secondary effects. Most of the heroes that are lower down than Shocker have some good secondary effects, like Hex as the immediate example. She's got a Blaze, which enhances her or increases her damage, and she's also got Blind, whereas Shocker's Hammercast has literally nothing. So I don't believe that the Hammercast damage is high enough to warrant not having anything else in it, because you have to look at these. You can't look at it and be like, oh, but he's got a second skill and it does something else. No, you have to look at the Hammer of Wrath as its own discrete firing, because it is its own cast. You have to charge the skill a whole other time to get the shield one. So yeah, I don't agree with there not being any secondary effects on the Hammer cast. I think there definitely should have been something. Maybe a defense down or an elemental defense down or something like that. But yeah, on its own, it's lackluster in terms of its damage output. Moving on to the second special skill, essentially, which is the Shield of Wrath. So the damage here is the attack power of 733 multiplied by 205%, and we see on the DOA 3 hitters, we land at 150 attack power per tile per enemy, which is number 10 of the 11 DOA 3 hitters. So even on the AoE side of things, his second skill, he's still not got great damage output, even here. Like, you've got ones that are up the top there. Fungi Beats is 291, and he's got a lot of really good secondary effects as well. Torrent, 229, Varian Logan, 218. So Shocker coming in at only 150 after having a mediocre first skill as well is disappointing. There is a decent secondary effect to his skill, but I mean, you look at the other options on this list as well, they also have some really great secondary effects. I mean, Ghost is actually a better damage dealing hero and has a better defense down. So it's not even like you can say, oh, but he's got defense down, that's an awesome skill, but because Ghost is better. So yeah, moving on from the damage, because it is still lackluster and lacking compared to some of the other heroes that we see. The other part of his Shield of Wrath skill is the defense down element. So this is where the target and nearby enemies get minus 29% defense for 3 turns. So first off, we can see it is percentage based, which is awesome. It means that it will scale, and it has scaled with power creep, emblems, weapons, all that sort of thing. The more defense that the enemy hero has, it's still going to do 29%. So opposed to some of the static ones where they end up with only, you know, minus 140 and it's only ever 140, this will scale, which is really good. 29% itself is the lowest end of the percentage-based defense down heroes. It's the same as heroes like Sunbeam and Variant Vigo, which are similar in age. Sunbeam's probably a little bit newer, but I mean, a lot of the other defense down heroes are higher percentages. They're like 34, 35%, or, you know, you've got Ghost. Ghost actually comes in as minus 54%, I want to say, from memory. So quite a lot higher, almost double the defense down that Shocker does. So very much eclipsed by that. Still definitely better than the ones that are static. So those static heroes are like about 22% roughly on the average 5-star defense stat. So they're 144 defense down. So it's not much better though. Like when you think about it, 22% versus 29% is not a big jump compared to 29% compared to 54%. So yeah, the other thing to really note is that this is only ever applying on every second cast, which does introduce limitations when you go to use him elsewhere. So overall, I do think that Shocker is an okay hero. He's not great. The concept itself is actually really interesting. Like, we see a hero with 2 alternating skills, which is unique. There's no one else that actually does alternating skill. There's some that progress through a special skill like Mantis or Crash, but none actually alternate backwards and forwards between 2 different skills. The hammer cast, though, when we look at them, it just straight up just doesn't have enough damage. Like, to warrant not having any secondary effects, that damage needed to be astronomical. It needed to be phenomenal, but it just wasn't. So I think the hammer cast needed something more, and the shield cast is definitely, in my opinion, the better of the 2 skills. It at least has the percentage-based debuff, which gives him some support uses on attack teams and against war machines, so worth leveling there when you're lacking a better defense down hero like Ghost. But the fact, though, that it casts only on every second skill means that you do have to charge him twice or 4 times or 6 times in order to unlock that defense down element. So it does present some difficulties and delays when you use him in both a raid and a war machine arena. Target areas, if I was to try to improve him, would be like, obviously, I'd just add more to both of the skill options. So the hammer cast, it needs either a crap load more damage, like double or triple the amount, or it just needs some sort of secondary effect. So whether it's an elemental defense down or a full team dispel or something like that, that would be really cool. The shield cast obviously also needs probably more damage, I would say, or it just needs another ability. So maybe a charge debuff or possibly an AoE 3 dispel or something like that. It just needs something more to warrant having such low damage compared to some of the newer heroes. So overall, for Shocker's grading, I'm going to give him a C+ for war and raid attacks. He's a little bit above average, I'd say, with the defense down element, but the fact that it is only alternating does make it difficult. In the war machine front, defense down is one of the key areas that you should try to put on war machines, but again, being only every second cast does notch him down a bit. So I'm going to give him a B grade for war machines. In eventing, I'm going to give him a C+. Yes, he's got a DOA 3. Yes, he's got defense down, but it's not every cast, which makes him harder to use compared to someone like Ghost or even just whoever else. An AoE 3 hitter would be better. That hits 3 every time. On war and raid defenses, I'm going to give him a C- here, probably best suited to the flank position. The variability in his skill can make him a little bit unpredictable, but ultimately, neither skill is going to be fearsome from a defense team perspective. On the tournaments, I'm going to give him a C+ and a C- for attack and defense on the Bloody Battle front. So Bloody Battle, C+ attack, and a C- on defense. No real benefit or loss to the Bloody Battle at all. On the buff boosters, I'm going to drop him down to a C grade on attack and a C-, keep him at the C- for defense. Doesn't contribute to buff booster rule set in any way. And finally, on the charged attack tournament, he does improve from 50 speed up to 65, so I will give him a slight bump here, so I'll give him a B grade for charged tournament attacks and a C+ for his charged tournament defense. So overall, that comes out as being a B- for his overall attack grade and a C- for his overall defense grade. And that concludes the content that I have for this review of Shocker. As always, these are just my personal thoughts and opinions on these heroes. I love hearing your thoughts and feedback on them, so please do jump down to the comments section of the video, leave me a note. I try to read and respond as much as I can. If you enjoyed the content and found it to be useful or helpful, feel free to like the video, subscribe to my channel and all that sort of thing, but most importantly, share the video around, because if this sort of thing is useful for yourself, chances are it's also going to be useful to the people you play with as well. Thank you once again for tuning in and joining me. I do hope I will see you again soon, but until then, good luck, stay safe, and happy gaming. Cheers, bye!